All right, so in the hands-on exercise, you got a chance to do a really cool, simple note project or note application. And what we did was we created a packaged module. And if you don't know what a packaged module is, if you think back to when you were in Python or any other classes, when you wanted to use code from someplace else, you had to import that code, and we called them libraries. We also had a concept called modules in Python where you created code in a separate file, and you were able to import that separate file's code into your into another Python file to use it. So it's the same similar concept, all right? So the hands-on project that we created was a simple little project that allowed us to write a module that would take in words and censor them, all right? And let's go through that code really quick so we can see what it does. All right, so here we create an array called censored words, and censored words holds three words: sad, bad, mad. So we put all our base words that we want to censor in this list. All right, so line 2, we create a empty array to hold any custom censored words that the user of our little package module wants to add to the word of censored words. All right, so let's take a look at the next function. All right, so we have a function called censor. Censor takes in a string called nstring, NSTR, and we have a little loop that iterates over our array of censored words. So it's going to iterate 3 times because we have 3 words in our array. All right, so every time we encounter a word, the index is stored in this variable called IDX right here. All right, so then we're going to use the replace command to say replace on nstring. So we're going to replace any instance of the current word at that index of censored words with 5 asterisks. All right, and then we're going to reassign that back to nstring. We also need to account for our custom censored words, so we iterate over custom censored words the same way, doing the same type of replace, but with any words that are in custom censored words. And finally, we return the new string that we censored the words with. All right. Our next function, add censored word, takes in a word, and we just push that word onto our custom censored word array. So that's just adding a word to our array of custom censored words. All right. Next, we have a function called get censored words. All right. All it does is concatenates the censored words array with the custom censored words array and returns it back to the caller. All right. Now, here's the 3 important parts. All right. So by default, in core JavaScript, you saw that any function that was declared in a JavaScript file was visible to any other script, excuse me, any other JavaScript file running on the same page as long as it was declared after that script. All right. Well, note that's a very bad thing actually. So we have patterns called module patterns that get around that, but Node.js eliminates that by saying that any module or any function that's inside of a module must be exported first in order for it to be visible to a caller. So we need to export our 3 functions by using this syntax here. So here we're saying exports.censor. So we're exporting a function called censor. And what are we assigning to it? The actual censor function. We're exporting add censored word, and what are we assigning to it? The actual function add censored word. Same for get censored word. So anytime any one of these are invoked, it's going to invoke the corresponding function, and that makes the methods or functions in our module available to other modules. All right. All right. So the next steps that you should have done would be to actually run the command npm pack to create this in your local directory. So if you created it correctly, what you should, or if the npm correctly worked, you should see. Let's go out and let's see what you should see. You should see a tg file, tgz file. Where's my censor file? All right, where can I find? Okay, so you should see a file called censorfile-0.1.1.tgz. That's basically like a zip file for node packages. All right, so at that point, you could actually publish it to what they call the npm registry and make it available to everyone in the world to use because you're so cool. But we won't do that now. We'll just install it locally. All right, so the next thing you need to do to actually do that is add the package.json file that actually describes our package. So here's our package.json, and it's written in JSON, right? And it's just a key value type deal here. So you see our keys and our value setting up things, all right? Key to note here is the main should always be the code that should load when you run the application. In our case, it is the file itself, which is sensor text. No need to add the JS to the end of it. It'll find it on its own. All right, we would add any dependencies, i.e. other libraries that our code depends on here. And when they do npm install it, npm install it would download those other dependencies. And here we're specifying that our engine to run it is Node. All right, we'll see other engines a little later on. All right, so let's take a look at the read words that we've built to use our little library. All right, so if you run the npm install /sensorify/sensorify -0.1.1.tgz, it will install that package locally here. All right, so remember that the dot just says the go back a folder and go up. All right, so that's how we're navigating to that Sensorify directory that we created. All right, so if you run that npm install, you should see a folder here called Node Modules. All right, so that's where any node modules that we've created or installed would be placed. In this case, you see that Sensorify is right there in that directory. All right. Now, here's our readwords.js file that takes advantage of our library. In order to use the library or another module, you must first require it. So you see our first line is var sensor, so we're declaring a variable called sensor, and we're saying require Sensorify. So now all the functions that we had exports on in our Sensorify file, sensor text file, is now available as a function on this sensor variable that we've created. All right, so now we say console.log sensor.get censored words. So remember, we exported get censored words. So what that's going to do is retrieve that array of censored words and displayed on the console. All right, we're gonna censor some text, so we're passing in sensor.censor some very sad, bad, and mad text, and censor, of course, returns that with the asterisk over those words, so it should have asterisks over sad, bad, and mad. All right, then we're gonna add another censor word, gloomy, and if we get the list, we should see gloomy in there now, and then we're gonna censor a new sentence, and we should just see an asterisk over gloomy. All right, so to execute that, we're going to run our node command, read words, no need to put the JS at the end, and we see our list of words, we see our asterisks over the next line, we see our new list containing gloomy, and then we see asterisks over gloomy. All right, take care.